everyone, and welcome back to the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel. My name is Anthony Alesiani, and today we'll be talking about Daniel Ricciardo and where to from here after the announcement that he'll be leaving McLaren at the end of the 2022 Formula One season. A massive shock to the F1 community, even though this has been building all summer break now for Formula One. It's been a tumultuous time for F1 fans that support Danny Ric, Australians especially being divided, considering the fellow Aussie of Oscar Piastri looks set to take his place at the end of the year. All the fallout has been all positive from Daniel fans and fans alike, and we're hoping that he stays in Formula One for 2023. And this is why I'm here to talk about what next for Daniel Ricciardo.
Hey everyone, wanted to share some news. It's not great, it's bittersweet for sure, but I think it's best you hear it from me. 2022 will be my last year with McLaren.
So a quick rundown of what's been happening. Over the last month since the end of the Hungarian Grand Prix, the break from Formula One has been astronomical. The day after the race in Hungary, Fernando Alonso announced that he was going to Aston Martin to replace the seat left by the retiring Sebastian Vettel at the end of the year. This left a seat open at Alpine. Alpine then announced that Oscar Piastri was going to be the driver to replace, and all looked set and done, except a couple of minutes later, Oscar tweeted that he would not be joining Alpine in 2023. It was a shock to us all. It actually created so much drama, and then the dominoes fell from there. The talk about Daniel Ricciardo and his seat and his possible replacement that could be in 2023. He had a contract to the end of 2023, did Daniel Ricciardo, and it was announced just only hours ago that Danny Ric would be leaving McLaren. He announced it himself on his socials with a very saddening video, and I'm sure this issue runs deeper than a mutual agreement, as he did state. It has been stated that it has been a mutual agreement to part ways at the end of the year, but to me, it seems as though Danny Ric has probably been sacked. It's not a great look. It hasn't been a great look for Zak Brown and McLaren throughout this whole time, especially considering it's been a deal that's probably been made with Mark Webber and Oscar Piastri and his whole management team to sign with McLaren probably at the end of 2023. I think it was a little bit unexpected. This has been caused from the Fernando Alonso fiasco of leaving and going to Aston Martin. It was a shock. And it definitely has caught everyone off guard. And McLaren pounced at the opportunity to make sure that Oscar Piastri was in the seat next year. And unfortunately, the short straw fell with Danny Ricciardo. And it's a shame because that deal was essentially to lock him in for 2023. We know his performances haven't been great across the last 18 months, but he is McLaren's last winner in the last decade. So he has credentials in the bank. And unfortunately, it's been the consistency of Lando Norris, and obviously he's pronounced the golden boy of McLaren that's caused Danny Ric to always be under pressure. He's never felt great in the car, and he's never found that consistent drive. The back end of last year definitely had a lot more hope and promise. He was consistent in his performances, and McLaren fell away with their performance. They started off this year in 2022 with a pretty ordinary car. They got to Australia, a double points finish. It was a great turnaround for them, and ever since, Lando Norris has been consistent in his performances. He's a podium finisher, and unfortunately, Danny Ric has just had trouble after trouble with the car and not finding consistent performances. He had a couple of good patches there, finishing in the points, but overall, it's been a favourable strategy for Lando Norris. Hasn't been a great one for Danny Ric, and obviously hasn't found the pace in the car as yet. So it kind of spelt danger for him once all of this unravelled in the last few weeks, and now it's up to Daniel Ricciardo what he does next. He did announce in his video that he has the fire in his belly, and it was great. It was a passionate response to what's been happening. He has that fire, he has that drive to continue in Formula One, to find to continue his passion and find that edge again. The performances haven't been there, but he definitely still has what it takes. And now that's his opinion. That's the mindset he's going to take. The opinions of many outside of his will be definitely controversial, different takes from different people, and the critics will definitely still be there. Now, the obvious choice for him to stay in Formula One, it's a most likely feature. He has seats available, definitely with Alpine, the open spot there to go back with Esteban Ocon. Looks to be almost the more favourable in percentage. I'd say it's about a 60 to 70% chance that happens, so more likely than not. The other options he has, and it's been a rumour that's also been coming around in circles the last week or so, is that Gunther Steiner, the boss at Haas, now he has a very big F1 base of fans in America, the USA, and he has a love for the USA. So going there and becoming part of the Haas family would be a great addition for him and his popularity and the way to merchandise and promote. And Haas would be stupid not to go after him or at least have a chat with him. And that's been the rumor of late, and definitely I think it's something that can be talked about, and it definitely will have a lot of legs if that continues to pan out. And then obviously with the open contract of Mick Schumacher. Now there is talks that Mick obviously is going to sign on. The contract's been there. They've held off talks a little bit, and I think Haas have been waiting to see exactly what happens with Daniel Ricciardo. And it would be a strong outfit to have Kevin Magnussen and Danny Rick in the Haas team next year. I don't think it's the likeliest of choices, but definitely if things fall through with Alpine, and it could very well do so with the history that Danny Rick and Alpine have with their departures in the last couple of years, and be interesting to see how that pans out. Now, Alfa Romeo are another one. Zhang Yo is obviously part of that contract basis as well. Doesn't have a contract for 2023 with Alfa Romeo. So if it was to pan out that he didn't end up at Haas, he didn't end up at Alpine, then there's a spot at Alfa Romeo. But definitely a lot of money has been pumped into Zhang Wanyo at Alfa Romeo. So it could be very much a different story there, and it's more the unlikely, if not almost impossible occasion that will happen. But then again, Mick Schumacher is definitely wanting to stay in Formula One beyond this year. He's very much a great talent. He's been very consistent of late, and I think a team would be looking to see if they can boost that opportunity and the Schumacher family and the name and the talent that he has. If all of a sudden Daniel Ricciardo is at Haas in 2023, then I think Alfa Romeo definitely look at going at Mick Schumacher and filling that spot there alongside Valtteri Bottas, and that'd be a great connection to have there. So a mentor for Mick Schumacher as well. As you can see, there's a lot to plan out. There's a lot to happen with these seats, and it's something that I think has caught the Formula One community off guard. And as an Australian Formula One fan, and I know many others as well, we saw the merchandise, we saw the promotion that Australia has with the Grand Prix, the announcement of Melbourne next year to be on April 2nd, and that long weekend, that big weekend in April. It was a massive crowd there, all for Danny Rick and the fans, and I think they'll be a little bit disappointed if they don't see Daniel Ricciardo on the grid in 2023, especially considering Oscar Piastri is going to be there as well. The antagonist, and I didn't think there'd be an Australian Formula One driver with that type of edge. He's got a bit of a Lewis Hamilton about it when he first started. There's a lot of talk around him, and I don't know. It's a very much an open question of where Daniel Ricciardo ends up in 2023. Now, there is unlikelier options, and he could not even end up in Formula One. Just to talk about where Kimi Räikkönen is. He's in NASCAR at the moment, so he could very much feed into that series if he wanted to take a step away from Formula One and end up somewhere else, try something different, refresh the mind and give himself a new challenge. Daniel Ricciardo is that type of person. He loves to be adventurous and try different things, and with the American base and how much popularity he has in the country and around the world, Daniel Ricciardo could definitely seek out an option in NASCAR. And the other option as well is supercars. He could come back home, and the option's always been, he's always had an interest in the supercars series in Australia. He could very much come home and develop a team, or even become part of Red Bull, or Zach Brown could definitely still offer him an option down here in Walkinshaw. It could be a massive talking opportunity for him to come back to Australia and race in the Supercar Series. So he has options. He definitely has brand and the opportunities around him to seek out other places as well if Formula One did not work out for Daniel Ricciardo. Just to wrap this all up before we finish up, I do think he'll be in Formula One next year. Daniel Ricciardo he still has the fire, as he says, but I still think he's got that pace and that edge to be a Formula One driver. He just needs to find the fun again, and we need to see the smiling assassin, the honey badger, dive bombing people going into turn one and just enjoy the moment once again in Formula One, because the pressure's been there. This all talk about his contract and his performances. At least now he knows where he stands. So going into the back end of this year, he can feel free. He can feel like he can drive without any pressure and without any expectations, and know that everything in the future will pan out for himself. So we might see some very, very good results for Danny Ric come at the end of the year. My prediction, he'll end up at Alpine in 2023, and they'll have a very good car, and I think he'll be very competitive in 2023 and onwards. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing 2 Australians on the grid, because I do think that'll happen. And what a better way to start it with the star and Oscar Piastri that's going to be joining the grid, and Daniel Ricciardo, who's the veteran, the man. And I hope the relationship isn't staying between the two Aussies, and we work together to make sure that Australia get a world champion very, very soon. Thank you so much for watching the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel. My name is Anthony, and we will see you next time.